Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Essential Wellness Toolkit with our guest, Naturopathic Dr. Miranda Wiley. My name is Dion. I am the nutrition consultant at your Choices Markets Abbotsford location. So before I introduce our guest, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you are here watching us live tonight and you signed up for the event, after the event you will receive an email with a quick survey for you to fill out. Please fill that out. We will ask you for your physical mailing address, and that is so we can send you a nut buck, or a nutrition buck as we call it. Looks like this. And that's a coupon that can be spent in our store. If you spend $50 or more, you get $10 off, and you can use that on sale items as well. So a great thing to do. If you would like to ask questions, please do that through the YouTube live chat. In order to do that, you do need to have a YouTube account. So sign into your account now so you can ask questions. And if you don't have an account, there's enough time to quickly sign up and log in. And then we will get to the questions at the end of the event. So for future events, you can find that out at our website at choicesmarkets.com. Now let's dive in and get to our speaker, naturopathic Dr. Miranda Wiley. Miranda began her career in natural health at 13 years old when she took a job at her local health food store. By the age of 14, she had decided on a career in naturopathic medicine. Her original explorations into herbs, nutrition, and the human body were self-guided and led her towards a Bachelor of Science in Human Nutrition at UBC. She later graduated from the Boucher Institute of Naturopathic Medicine in BC and currently practices in Vancouver. So thank you so much. I'm excited, and welcome, Miranda. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dion. And thank you everyone for coming out this evening. I know pandemic fatigue is real, and Zoom fatigue and online fatigue, and time is precious. I really appreciate you joining us this evening. A little bit about me. As Dion said, I am based in Vancouver, although a lot of people, it's back to telehealth now, but there is that option. So I did graduate from the Boucher Institute in 2009. So I've been in practice now for nigh on 12 years. I think this is my 13th year. It is more than 30 years experience in the natural health industry. I started young. All that self-guided exploration involved me going to the library and looking things up on like microfiche. We're going back a little while. So it was all before internet came, and Christmas became easy because my parents would just give me another book on herbs or another book on nutrition, and it was fun. I was hooked from a very young age, and I'm very grateful for that. I do consider myself to be compassionate. I didn't write this, but I want to help people. That's the whole goal. And I think that naturopathic medicine and holistic health have a lot to offer. I am very curious. I'm terrible at saying I don't know. I can say I don't know yet, and then go look up, which is how I started out in the health food industry so long ago. And then teaching patients. It's not about me saying you need to do this, you need to do that. I need to educate people, and then they can make their own decisions for their own best health goals. I do love playing in the kitchen. I do love the whole food cook. My husband will look in the fridge and say, we've got nothing to eat. And I look at him, okay, I can mix that and I can mix that and play with that and nourish the family. Eternal student, always, always learning. That is one of the joys and frustrations of medicine, is there's always more, and there's always more depth, and there's always more breadth to the knowledge. I like doing yoga to help keep me balanced, particularly because I do have two small kids who are very good at trying to keep me unbalanced, but they're a lot of fun. So we're looking today at just your wellness toolkit, and it's a bit of a broad topic. What we're seeing, the concerns I'm seeing in practice now, 2 years ago, very much, it was all about immune health and immune support. So we are actually going to touch on that now. And in the last year, the greater concern has been more on mental health and balancing out moods. And also this fatigue, these various types of fatigues that are coming out. So we also want to look at energy balance, and those three are all interlinked. So one of the joys of my type of medicine is trying to find one or two things that will address a myriad of complaints. Or if we can get to the root cause and treat that, then a number of symptoms may dissipate or resolve or experience some alleviation. And so we're going to be talking about nutrition because it's the cornerstone of everything. They say you are what you eat. I think you are what you absorb. We want to look at exactly what's coming into our mouths, how well we're digesting it, how well we're getting those nutrients into our system. And we're looking at the fact that nutrient deficiencies are real. They are new in a way that our grandparents or great-grandparents didn't experience because the quality of food has changed. So Health Canada report, and this isn't that new, it came out in 2012, but they looked at Canadians and found that just under 20% of women were not consuming enough iron. So that's almost a fifth of the Canadian population, Canadian female population, not getting enough iron. 10 to 35%, so up to 1/3 of Canadian adults were not getting enough B12 and vitamin C, so just below the average requirements. They're not hitting the RDAs with their diet. And then they were getting B6, B9, or folate and zinc in inadequate amounts. So not just below average, but just really not cutting it. So just not coming in through the foods that they eat. And then more than 35%, so this is where it gets a bit staggering, we're consuming vitamin A and vitamin D below average requirements. And vitamin D, certainly it's been a bit of a golden child in the last few years. A lot more people are aware of it. I have a lot of patients who I wanted to think just on Saturday, and I say, what supplements do you take? And she said vitamin D. And that was it. Didn't take anything else. So I think a lot more people are aware of it now. Vitamin A, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's beneficial, but too much can be dangerous. Vitamin D is quite a bit safer. But typically they are found in organ meats, and that is not a big part of the Canadian diet. So then they were put into dairy products and fortified dairy. And a lot of my patients are dairy sensitive or choosing a plant-based diet. So we're not getting that sort of artificial supplementation through the diet itself. And then the US stats, so that's where we're looking at the Center for Disease Control. And this one, I think, was about 2014 or so. And they found that 15 million people in the States had low serum vitamin C. So actually looking at their blood levels, and that works out to about 5% of the population. So actually measuring not enough vitamin C, which considering it's widely available in produce is a little bit surprising, I think. 18 million people, or about 6%, were deficient in B12. And B12 is one of those nutrients, the rare nutrient that gets recycled. So to become deficient, that means you've been getting inadequate amounts for a long period of time. 30 million people were deficient in vitamin B6. That works out to about 10% of the population roughly. And more than 90 million people were insufficient in vitamin D. So again, about 30%. So similar to Canadians there. So this is big. These are really key nutrients. They should not be difficult to achieve, although we might want to supplement with them to ensure that we're getting adequate amounts, since there can be obstacles to the diet, as this charming child is showing us. So there's a number of factors that can lead to the common nutritional deficiencies, and the common ones being the ones that we looked over, right? Canada assessed the same ones as the US. These are the big ones that are showing up as lacking in the Western diet. And part of that is the changes in agriculture. The soil, when our ancestors tilled the earth, they would plant a crop that had a short root system, the next year one that had a medium root system, the next year one that had a deep root system, and then next year you let the field sit fallow. And so it would just be, weeds and animals coming through, but not actively growing anything, and let the soil replenish itself and have a year of rest. And that has shifted. There's more emphasis on, profit and yield and, get it to market. And so oftentimes the same field is being used for the same crop year after year after year, and it's depleting the nutrients in that soil. They can be over-tilled. On top of agricultural changes, there's been a lot of lifestyle changes. I mean, even beyond these last couple of years, we're more drawn to a high-stress lifestyle. We often need, 2 working parents and, juggling career and family, just reading the news, seeing what's going on around the world. Whereas historically, you knew what was going on maybe in the next village, and that was about as far as we went. Now we know everything that's happening globally, and it's not always cheerful. Chronic disease. So as we live longer, which is a good thing, we do then start to deteriorate. So that's a bad thing. And then we see that chronic disease come through and greater periods of our life being spent dealing with deficiency and disease. Chronic medication use, there's some big stats there of, the number of Canadians who are on one or more medications on a regular basis. Even if you just think of, birth control pill, that counts as a medication. It depletes B vitamins, vitamin C, Tylenol, Advil, like a lot of the over-the-counter meds, never mind your more regular thyroid hormones, cardiovascular medications, digestive symptom support. So there's a lot of just, reaching for the medicine bottle. And certainly it has its place. We want to, again, keep people alive and ticking along as well as we can. But many medications do lead to nutrient deprivation in the body, or they can block the absorption. Digestive concerns. This is, I'd say, the bulk of my practice is people who, I'm eating well. I do the smoothie, I do the salad, but, I've got low iron, or, the white spots on my fingernails indicating not enough zinc. I ran my vitamin D and it's low. How is this possible? And so I'm looking at not just the quality of the food coming in, but how well are they able to extract those nutrients and get them across the digestive membrane into their bloodstream, where it can then circulate to the cells that need it. So compromised digestion. And a big part of that is lifestyle, right? We, again, at our computers, work, eat some lunch, wolf down some dinner. And so really trying to bring back that, close your computer, put away the distractions, take a moment, take a few deep breaths, eat your meal, taste the food, get to the other side, and then you can go back to working, sitting down at the family table for dinner, having the conversation, practicing sitting still, the give, the take. So some of it is very much lifestyle. Don't eat in the car, don't eat while walking, which is hard. My kids keep fighting me on that one. Even like, stay still, I don't want you to choke. And they're just, walking as they eat, and trying to get them to just sit and eat, then run around. And certainly environmental toxins. So we've got more herbicides and pesticides showing up in our food supply. And those, again, can have impacts on the amount of nutrients that we need to detoxify them from our bodies, as well as, they might be impairing nutrients being drawn out of the soil. So a few more demands on our system than we had before. Just air pollution, water pollution, and, back to that high stress lifestyle. I don't want this to be a doom and gloom thing. I think there's a lot that we can do to live in this world and live in our society, but to sort of maximize our health and vitality within that time. But ultimately, it comes down to, for a lot of people, the nutritional need has gone up because we are high stress and we're medicated. Digestion isn't as great as it was. And yet the nutrients in the food have decreased due to agricultural practices. So there's a bigger gap. Now we want to help bridge that gap and support the system. So we're going to start with a balanced mood, because I think sort of top-down mind-body medicine, we really want to look at what we can do to feel that positivity, to endure the fatigue that many of us were experiencing even before the pandemic hit. So we really want to look at how can we support our brain. It is a physical organ within our body, and yet it is it's also a very greedy organ. It takes about 25% of our blood sugar supply, right? Everything you eat, you could be sitting still and studying, just learning something. I haven't moved from my desk 2 hours learning something, but you're hungry because your brain is sucking all of that sugar up to keep it going. So the brain is always on. Even when we're sleeping, it is taking what we learned during that day, what we experienced, and either letting it go or putting it into long-term storage, or just, synthesizing it, filing away all of that information as necessary or unnecessary, something we might need to draw on again in the future. That constant supply of fuel, again, it's a very greedy organ. And what we eat, so partly from a blood sugar perspective, partly from an enjoyment and experience of the food, partly from the nutrition, what we eat directly impacts the structure and function of our brain, and therefore ultimately our mood. So we're just looking at, what can we eat? What can we supplement with? How can we support mood just from a base level? Reach out to your contacts, journal, seek help where necessary, know the signs within yourself, but what can we do just to give that baseline nutrition? Vitamin D, a deficiency, which again, remember in Canada, because more than 35% of Canadians are not getting enough vitamin D. vitamin D is low levels are directly related to depression, and we see mood changes. So sometimes it can be that simple that, you go, you get the blood draw, we see your vitamin D levels are at, and taking a little bit more, and the dark clouds lighten and the sun shines through a bit more onto our brain. So it's a sunshine nutrient from our mental perspective, as well as something that we get when we're actively outside. And certainly in Vancouver in January, I think it's raining again right now. This is a tough time for us to get vitamin D. Magnesium we need for muscle relaxation. So generally calcium contracts muscles, magnesium helps them to relax, but it also helps with neurotransmitter balance that again helps to support relaxation in the brain. So that constant on, think mode, magnesium can help shift the biochemistry and help to support more relaxing neurotransmitters to function and bring us, a sense of calm. So, and if our body's a bit more relaxed, our brain can relax. So again, we have that mind-body connection. It's naturally found in dark green leafy vegetables. I think we'll talk about that on the next slide. And yet it is, I think, one of the more common nutrient deficiencies that we find. And you need vitamin D to help absorb your minerals. So if there's a vitamin D deficiency, go figure, that person might be lacking in magnesium as well. The B vitamins, they are the converters of energy. So your fats, your proteins, your carbohydrates, what you're eating, that is way too much energy for itty bitty little cells. So they go through a processing pathway that's run by the B vitamins, and that converts your fats, proteins, carbs into a smaller unit of energy currency that the cell can use. And then we again look back at those deficiencies. In Canada, we had 10 to 35% of Canadians getting inadequate amounts of B12, B6, and B9, your folate. B6 is particularly important because it's required for neurotransmitter synthesis. So if we want to make serotonin, we want to make dopamine, we want to make these positive neurotransmitters, we need to have enough vitamin B6. And that can be tough to get through diet alone. And certainly with a modern day diet, or if you are in a bit of a state of depression or anxiety and just having, the cheese and the crackers or cereal, or, just quick food to fill the belly rather than actually engaging in something that's a little bit more wholesome. So the mood begetting poor nutrition, as much as the poor nutrition can beget the mood changes. So B vitamins. And then omega-3 fatty acids. These are essential fatty acids because we can't make them. So they are not vitamins, but I think of them in the same category as vitamins because we have to get them from our diet. And the omega-3s, we're looking at, oily fish and flax. Actually, I think this is where we're going to go next, is where do we get these foods? So vitamin D, oily fish. I mean, I grew up, I don't know why, but we had sardines on toast a lot. And now, it's not something that my patients mention often. Salmon, certainly in the West Coast, we see quite a bit of that. Herring, I think that is a bit more Scandinavian, but you can find it here. Mackerel, northern Arctic fish. Some red meats, but mostly in the liver. It's where we store our vitamin D, and it's where animals store theirs. Liver is not a big part of most people's diet. Maybe a little pate here and there, but for most people, it's just not an ongoing thing. Egg yolks will have some. Mushrooms don't always contain vitamin D. We're looking more for wild mushrooms, or ones that were growing in the forest, and the UVB light was trickling down to the forest floor and exposing those mushrooms to the light, which then helped them to convert into vitamin D. So your average button mushrooms off the grocery store shelf are not going to contain much vitamin D, although you could slice them up, leave them exposed to sunlight, and that will actually increase the amount of vitamin D that is in there. It just takes a bit of light. And then sunlight itself. So when we can get out and get that sun on our skin, and then we undergo a very similar conversion in our skin, turning cholesterol into vitamin D. The mushrooms do something similar, even though they're from the fungal family. B vitamins, we're really looking at that whole food diet. So whole grains, quality meats, the best quality you can afford, which, varies sometimes from month to month, never mind from person to person. Eggs and dairy products, partly because they are sort of in that animal family, and they're needing their own B vitamins to do that conversion. The legumes, your beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas, that whole family, nuts and seeds, dark green leafy vegetables. That I think is kind of the the crux of the matter is getting more dark leafy greens, broccoli, spinach, bok choy, chard. Go to an Asian grocery store, choices, and explore a new dark green leafy that you haven't seen in a while. Get a big bag of arugula and find an arugula recipe. And then also finding B vitamins in citrus fruits, avocados, and bananas. So really, it's the whole diet. I mean, they're everywhere, but when we eat the processed foods, I'm just tired, I'm just going to have, a slice of toast and run out the door, we're not going to get that same density of nutrients. Magnesium, speak up for dark chocolate. It is actually in there. It's not just a myth. So dark chocolate is a good way to, tell yourself you're getting a little bit of your magnesium dose. You still want to be getting your dark green leafy vegetables there as well. Again, the avocados, the nuts, the seeds, the legumes. So we're going to see a lot of overlap here. The whole grains, not the refined, powdered, turned into flour grains, but the whole grain. You can soak them overnight, put them in soups, stews, get everything that's in there. We're really looking to get that germ. Bananas and salmon as well. And then omega-3 fatty acids, fish and seafood, nuts and seeds. Flaxseed has the most, then chia, then it kind of starts going down the line into the hemp, the walnuts. And flaxseed oil is readily available, pretty inexpensive, has a nice light nutty taste, and is an excellent source of omega-3, along with your fish and fish liver oils. And then seaweed and algae. But again, those don't, for most people, constitute like the bulk of their meal. We might have a seaweed salad once in a while, but if you can throw some seaweed into the soup, you can get a little bit more nutrients coming in that way. So the whole foods diet as much as possible. And supplementing when needed. So vitamin D, there's two options from MegaFood, which is the company that we're going to be talking about a bit tonight. Their vitamin D3 is coming from the lanolin of sheep in New Zealand. So it's not a dead animal product, as some vitamin Ds unfortunately are. It's coming from an ethically sourced, still animal-based, but it is coming from a living animal from the lanolin of the sheep. And then the vitamin D3 gummies, this is something I put in my kids' lunchbox. They taste really good. You've got whole food, oranges, blueberries, cranberries, 1,000 IUs of vitamin D right in there. So really, really easy to take. It's quite delicious. Every now and then I'll sneak one, but I'm better at popping pills than my kids are, but really, really easy to take. Both of these are at 1,000 IUs of vitamin D3. One of the good things to come out of COVID in the last year was that Health Canada raised the limit on supplements. Before, vitamin D supplements were capped at 1,000. Now they're going up to 2,500 IUs. So hopefully we'll start seeing some of those increases in the MegaFood line, and we can get higher levels just with one pill. Magnesium, as we said, this is dark green leafy vegetables. If you're not getting those 5 to 10 servings of fruits and veggies every day, it's just too much kitchen labor for you at that time. I think go for some frozen vegetables, make it as easy as you can, but supplement where needed. Don't be afraid to take the help where you can get it in these really well-absorbed forms. So magnesium, we're helping with that muscle relaxation, helping with the nervous system. They're needed for, it's an essential mineral for the adrenal glands, which are the glands that help to regulate our stress response and might be starting to fatigue in some people and bringing down that energy level. So we're going to get that magnesium up. And then within one of these tablets, you're also getting a little bit of organic spinach. So that food-based supply, the chlorophyll, the other cofactors to really help the absorption and the bioavailability. Quick note here, all of the MegaFood products are farm fresh. These ones, well, the magnesium is certified vegan. The vitamin D would be vegetarian because it is coming from an animal source. All tested to be herbicide and pesticide free and glyphosate residue free. So they've been checking for large amounts of herbicides and pesticides over the years, and more recently started working with the Detox Project to make sure that there was no traces of glyphosate from neighboring farms or neighboring water supply. So nothing showing up in that final product. So super clean, which I really like. And then free of the 3 most common allergens. So no dairy, no soy, no gluten. They're Circle K kosher certified and non-GMO project verified. So all things I really appreciate for my health, the health of the planet, and it's kind of really long-term a long-term approach to our health. We want to look at our energy, right? When we're feeling our mood go down, we tend to have our energy sag a little bit as well. And again, we're going to see some of these things overlap. When we really want to get our energy up, we've got to look at supporting the function of each cell and the quality of food. So we want to look at the interplay of fats, proteins, and carbs. Sugars are going to give you a quick burst of energy followed by a bit of a crash. So let's not turn to, oh, I'm feeling tired, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate or, a gummy bear and just, get a quick rush, or I'll grab a scone or something that's, really sugary. We want to go for something that has that protein in there, maybe some complex carbs as well, and then some good fats. And you get a much more sustained energy rise with a much more gradual energy drop. So we're looking at feeling better for longer, not a quick rush and then, oh, I can't think clearly, but feeling good for hours before you then, move on to your next fuel up, your next meal. So we're looking at the type and the quantity of food that we eat to determine our energy levels throughout the day. In general, I'm working with my patients, there's exceptions to every rule, but for most people, I'm working with them to do 3 meals per day with no snacks in between. If they can go from breakfast at 7 or 8 in the morning till noon or 1 o'clock before they, really need to eat, I know their blood sugar is balanced. So if they're having something at 8, feeling that they really need to eat something by 9:30 or 10, that wasn't a great start to their day. They didn't break the fast well. Their blood sugar did a bit of a roller coaster. So we're working on manipulating it, and everyone has a different perfect way to break the fast. Some people do better with higher protein. Some people need more fat. Some people need more sort of whole grains, fibery, starchy things. So we got to find that match for the right person. And we want to choose always whole nutritious foods. Most of the time, none of us are perfect, but the more we can make those little substitutions and switches and, the little hacks where we're upping the quality bit by bit within our comfort zone, then we're going to have our body with all the nutrients that it needs to function at its best. If someone comes into my practice and fatigue is one of their concerns, the first 2 things I'm looking at are iron and B vitamins. Iron, because it is the leading micronutrient deficiency in the world, particularly amongst women, and B vitamins because we burn through them so quickly when we're under stress, because we're not always getting that whole food diet for 3 meals a day, right? Life happens. We sometimes go for convenience. Magnesium is another one that's going to come in there, again, sort of supporting that adrenal function and helping with the biochemistry within the cell. So when we're looking at B vitamins, we've talked about these. We're looking at the whole grains, the whole food as much as we can. So buying ingredients that you recognize and know that that is oats, that is quinoa, as opposed to that's some kind of pasta. I'm not sure if it's a brown rice pasta or quinoa pasta or a wheat pasta. It's hard to tell. The more you can choose the whole grain, the better, or at least know that that's on the label. Magnesium we've spoken about. So again, those dark green leafy vegetables, the whole grains, and that nice little medicinal dose of dark chocolate as needed. And then iron, predominantly, we are looking at animal sources, really well absorbed for most people. Still want to support the plant-based movement, know that meat isn't right for everybody, and certainly factory farm meat can be challenging on a global scale. But, shellfish, oysters, I had a patient years ago, she was from Germany, and she'd been anemic, and her doctor back in Germany prescribed her a can of smoked oysters every day. And she did that and got her iron stores up. So you can do it through diet. Quinoa, good source of iron. Cashews, again, the leafy greens, they tend to be rich in minerals. I think of Popeye with his spinach, getting his iron in. Molasses. So I make granola for the family, and I'm always using molasses as one of the sweeteners just to try and get a little bit more iron into all of us. And then nettle tea, there are some, nice herbs and drinks that we can turn to as well. So when we need to, we supplement. The Balanced B complex, it is called the Balanced B complex because when they put it together, they looked at foods that are naturally rich in B vitamins. So the dark green leafy vegetables, the legumes, the whole grains, and looked at the ratio of B1 to B2 to B3 to B5 to B6 to B9 to B12, and then copied that. So it's not equal amounts of every B vitamin because that's not how it's provided in food. And that's not how our body utilizes it. We take higher levels of some and smaller levels of other, just as like little cofactors that kind of nudge things along. So we've got that balanced ratio, food state B vitamins, and we need those to get our fats, proteins, carbs, and convert them into cellular energy. We also really need those B vitamins for nervous system health. So B12 for the nerves themselves, for energy maintenance, and then B6 for our neurotransmitter production. So we've got enough mental energy. We've got focus and clarity. So we've got our physical energy and our mental energy. Blood Builder is an iron formula. It has iron, B12, B6, and vitamin C. So it has everything, sorry, not B6, B12, folate, and vitamin C. So it has everything that's required to make red blood cells, not just the iron itself. And they did a trial. They had 23 women who were not anemic, but they had low iron stores. So we looked at their ferritin, it was very low. And at the beginning of it, they did a blood sample. They started filling out a questionnaire on their energy level, their digestion. And then every day for 8 weeks, these women took one blood builder and filled out their survey. One blood builder filled out their survey. And at the end of those 8 weeks, they did another blood draw. They found that the iron stores, the ferritin, had gone up about 7 points. So over 8 weeks, roughly a point a week. The hemoglobin, the red blood cells themselves, that protein that helps to carry the oxygen through our system, the iron-based protein, that had gone up. And the best part, the women didn't report any digestive issues. Because as much as iron is the leading micronutrient deficiency globally, many women don't take it because it makes them constipated or nauseous. So I have people coming into my practice, they're tired. Well, let's look at your iron levels. Oh, I know I'm anemic. Well, do you take an iron supplement? Oh no, because then it upsets my stomach. So they're choosing which bad feeling feels worse, right? They can live with being tired, but they can't live with feeling sick. So we got to find ways of getting iron into these people so that they can have energy and nice, comfortable, healthy digestion. And so energy went up, digestion stayed happy and manageable. And yeah, I've been using this in my practice since I graduated. So since 2009, and always seeing the levels go up and people tolerating it really, really well. Always good to get on that note, always good to get a blood test first and know that that is maybe the reason why you're tired, right? If some people have high iron and they're still fatigued. So then we're looking more at the B vitamins, we're looking more at the magnesium, their glandular health, what else might be going on with them. But nice to set a baseline, see where you're at, and then you can track the progress over time rather than just, guessing and diving in. And then we want to look at just sort of general immune support, because there are chemicals in our system that when we have an infection and they get triggered, they can in turn tie into mood changes. So, we start getting a cold, that inflammation that comes with it triggers one of those chemicals triggers feeling of depression. I'm like, oh no, I'm getting sick. Another one triggers feelings of anxiety. We're like, oh, I can't get sick now. I can't, not now. Oh, this is such bad timing. So that's not just your response, your perception of being ill. There's actual biochemical changes happening to your brain in response to becoming sick in the first place. So we do see that nutrition is intricately linked to immunity. We know that, again, back to the blood sugar balance, when our blood sugar goes up, our white blood cells tend to go down. Our ability to fight infection goes down. So another reason to work on blood sugar balancing, looking at fiber, fat, protein, how can we feel full longer and sustain our energy? We want to ensure that we have optimal nutrient levels to ensure our optimal immune function. And plant-based nutrients in particular help to support a healthy terrain because they help to support the microbiome, that good gut bacteria that is even more intricately related to our immune function. So we're looking at nutrients for our immune health. We're looking at vitamin A, which again, for Canadians, was more than 35% of us are vitamin A deficient. It's a tough one because we can't test it. And so we just want to stay just at a nice steady low dose. It's a nutrient that you do not want to take in high doses for long periods of time. It can be damaging on the liver, but a little bit and making sure you're getting adequate amounts, that's all wonderful. Vitamin C, this was one of the deficiencies. 5% of Americans, 10 to 35% of Canadians not getting enough vitamin C, and it's readily available. So we need to be more mindful of that. And again, supplement is needed. Vitamin D, great for immune support as well as brain support. And then zinc. Zinc and vitamin A work really closely together. They're cofactors for each other and help each other do their jobs more effectively in the system. Zinc is also a mineral that is readily bound up by glyphosate, by Roundup. So that pesticide that's being used in agriculture binds the zinc in the soil, and then there's less available for us to absorb. So it is one that I do tend to think of as a supplement form, while also eating more pumpkin seeds. So for vitamin C, pretty much if it grows on a plant or a shrub, chances are it's going to have some good degree of vitamin C in it. So the citrus fruits, obviously the oranges and lemons we know about the best. The old British sailors just getting by on a little squirt of lemon or lime every day and getting nicknamed the limeys because it helped to keep the scurvy at bay. Peaches, red peppers, orange peppers, yellow peppers, papayas, strawberries, broccoli, but even all your dark green leafies like watercress, turnip greens, beet greens, whatever leafy thing you can get, that's going to contain vitamin C. Organ meats is again another, just a little thought for us to throw in there. When we look at the Inuit living above the tree line, and there's lichen and not a lot of citrus fruits, peaches, peppers, papayas, strawberries, broccoli, growing, they tend not to get scurvy. And it's because the seal liver is very high in vitamin C. So again, we're not a society that tends to really, chow down on organ meats, but it is present in there. So I just wanted to sort of make that point as like a little bit of a fun aside. Zinc, also present in dark chocolate, although I wouldn't say to really meaningful degrees, but while you're getting your magnesium, know that you're getting a little smidge of zinc in there as well. Found in animal products, found in seafood products, legumes, nuts and seeds. I always think of pumpkin seeds as sort of the, oranges have vitamin C, and yet so many more foods do. Zinc is in pumpkin seeds, and yet in many other nuts and seeds, as well as in legumes and dairy products. Vitamin A, you're going to find that pretty much in animal products or in fortified dairy. We can get it as provitamin A. So anything that has that orange color, beta carotene is 2 vitamin A molecules that are joined at the tail. And as long as we can cleave, we have the enzyme that's going to snip that apart, we end up with 2 vitamin A molecules. Sometimes the enzyme doesn't break it apart there. We can't use it as vitamin A, or it snips it at sort of a different juncture, a different knuckle. But if we can take that beta carotene, break it apart, we are getting vitamin A into our system there. So your sweet potato, your squash, carrots, the leafy greens that have the red orange pigment hiding behind all of that chlorophyll. And then vitamin D, we've spoken about that one as well. And when we need to supplement from MegaFood, there's the complex C, which is a food state vitamin C. So this is a process that they developed years ago with the University of New Hampshire. And it's a technique by which ascorbic acid, vitamin C, and oranges are sort of married together with enzymes that integrates that ascorbic acid into the orange complex itself. So they're not two distinct entities when you take them in. There's been some work done in the facilities first to really integrate that nutrient in. So we're just optimizing the amount of vitamin C and absorbing it as if it was food-based. So that makes it a lot easier on the stomach. If we take too much vitamin C, we tend to get loose stools, and that's just indicating that we can't absorb it all. So smaller doses throughout the day, but if it's in a food form, we tend to absorb it much more effectively because we've got the bioflavonoids, all the other cofactors that are found in that food, then help with the absorption and utilization within the body. The gummy, again, delicious. My kids get it. It's 90 milligrams per gummy, throw it in their lunchbox. I know that they're getting that added little burst, as well as their fruit section and their vegetable section in their lunch kit. But really easy. For adults, generally we do, 2 a couple times a day, but, even just 1, 3 times a day, you're going to give yourself that added boost. If you can swallow pills, you'll get a bit more. It's about 250 milligrams. And then zinc, I think many of us need it. If you just want to do a quick check at your fingernails, if you see little white spots, That's often indicative of a zinc deficiency. It's related to our sense of smell. It's related to our wound healing. So people, get a burn or a paper cut and like, wow, that was 2 weeks ago and it's still not quite healed up. We might want to be looking at more zinc, more vitamin C, helping with our collagen synthesis, helping to fix that which has been damaged. And within this zinc supplement, it's also coming in a base of whole foods where there's spinach, brown rice, parsley leaf, carrot, broccoli, and beetroot. So we're getting some synergistic trace minerals to help that zinc be utilized by the body. And when in doubt, a multivitamin. Ideally do the food you can. If you're not up to it, if you don't know how to cook, if, it's a big obstacle and the energy isn't there, cut yourself some slack, take a supplement to help you do it, find, maybe a food prep kit or, buy bags of frozen vegetables. So you don't have to chop them up. There's pre-made, throw them in a steamer or in the oven with some olive oil and salt and roast them up. There are ways to make that perfect life more attainable because no one is perfect all of the time. We all, slip and go for convenience when we need it. But as much as we can, just, throw the side salad, have whatever you're going to have and grab half a pepper and you don't even have to slice it into pretty things. Just, eat it like an apple. Just wherever we can get the vegetables in is great. But looking at the changes in our agriculture where nutrients have gone down, the demands on our body where nutrients have gone up, a multivitamin can be really integral. Some people don't notice it, and I think that's fine. That's not a bad thing. I had one patient years ago. She was finishing up her master's. She was going through a divorce. She was exhausted and depressed and rock bottom. And there was so much I wanted to do for her, but she was so overwhelmed that I couldn't, and take this and take that and take that. I'm like, let's just start with a multi. And I put her on the women's one daily. And when she came back a couple weeks later, she's like, I feel so much better. And I'm like, oh man, wait till we actually really start, getting out of first gear. But it was just enough to give her body just that little bit of absorbable nutrients. And it lifted up her mood. And she was able then to commit to doing a little bit more for her own support, even though life was kind of crumbling around her. So a multi can actually be quite life-changing for some people. So the MegaFood difference, they're who we've been talking about today. They are a company that takes an approach they want to heal nutritional poverty. And so looking at even in the Western world, we have so much access to food. And yet one of my profs years ago said that we are overfed and undernourished. And I think that's quite true. We have access to all the food we need. We never have to feel a pang of hunger. And yet we're not always getting maximum nutrition in our diet. MegaFood is looking to cure nutritional poverty. They're working with farmers, and particularly farmers who grow organically and are committed to regenerative agriculture, because it isn't just about the food. It isn't just about us. It's about this big, beautiful blue planet that we're living on that we need to sustain so that our kids can thrive on it and our grandkids can thrive on it. So this organic and regenerative agriculture is an approach to food and farming systems. Sometimes you need pesticides, but there are very specific ones that are permitted. But when in doubt, we're rejecting the pesticides, the artificial fertilizers, regenerating the topsoil, not over-tilling it, letting the land rest, doing crop rotation. We want to increase that biodiversity so we get little animals coming through and expanding the quality of the fauna as well as the flora, and to strengthen the health and vitality of farming and ranching communities. So they're not just looking to, grow vegetables. They really want to help be part of the movement that is going to help heal the planet. And so MegaFood is getting their raw ingredients. So in that blood builder, the iron supplement we talked about, there's beets coming from Stallbush Island Farms, which some of you may have seen in the freezer section up at Choices. So it's a well-known organic farm, and they're providing foods to MegaFood as well. So they're committed to sourcing directly from these trusted farm partners who share their commitment to organic and regenerative agriculture and who truly care about the integrity and future of our food chain for generations to come. We can take baby steps now and reap huge benefits for the rest of our lives and the rest of our children's lives. So the MegaFood difference, they are making these food state nutrients that they designed with the University of New Hampshire PhD team decades ago. These nutrients are designed to be nutrient-rich food complexes with enhanced digestibility and nutritional value. So generally we take nutritional supplements with food because you kind of want to piggyback it onto that digestive process where, juices are flowing and we're actively digesting. These ones you can take on an empty stomach quite easily. It's like a teeny tiny little salad. It gets really, really well absorbed. The whole food is used, the peel and all. So when they're using the oranges for their vitamin C, it is the whole orange. You're getting the skin, the pith, the seeds, the juicy, delicious part inside. That gets pureed into a puree. And then that gets very gently dried into what kind of looks like fruit leather that then gets powdered down. And that's used in the final product. They do really gentle, low and slow drying. So it's about 15 minutes to get from this puree to this sort of fruit leather type looking stuff. So it's a really, really gentle dehydration technology that doesn't damage the nutrients. Very easy to digest. No herbicides, pesticides, genetically modified organisms, gluten, soy, dairy, glyphosate residue, and it's Circle K kosher certified. And then they have a transparency project. So if you're interested, you can go to megafood.com. You can find out, who we are and go to the live facility cams and watch them working. We have no secrets. There's cameras up and you can see us bottling things or mixing them together, see what's coming off the refractance window dryer. And is it orange or is it green or kind of a bluey purple, blueberry color? So that's kind of neat. You're not going to spend hours there, but it's kind of fun to check out. So our key takeaways: aim for a whole food, nutrient-dense diet as much as possible. I know this isn't new information for many of us. And believe me, there's days when I'm still, I just got to get something in and then pick up my kid from school or, go do work or whatever it may be. But as much as possible, just grab that extra vegetable, have things marinating. So the marinated broccoli, it's right there. It's easy to grab. A little bit of prep can then make your life much easier throughout the week. When needed, choose your supplements with real whole foods in mind as well. We don't want to just bridge that gap using things that are, coming from petrochemicals or synthetically produced. As much as we can make it food-based, the more our bodies should benefit. So when we're looking at mood support, there's a number of things you can think of, but vitamin D and magnesium would be the two that come to mind. When we're looking at energy support, B vitamins, I think for most people, iron, get checked first to know that is your deficiency, in which case, by all means, if you're low in iron, you will feel better as those numbers start to rise. And then for immune support, we want to be looking at vitamin C and zinc. So MegaFood, changing the world, starting with food. We have premium supplements crafted with nutrients and real food from trusted farm partners committed to a more sustainable future. And that is Nutrition with Ambitions. It's right here on her t-shirt. These guys are out in Kauai. They grow organic ginger, organic turmeric. So they live in paradise, growing wonderfully organic food that the rest of us can benefit from. And that is it for me. I think we've got plenty of time for questions if any came through. And there we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wiley. That was great. I kind of wanted to take a bite out of that fruit leather looking stuff. It looked so good.
Yeah, looks and tastes like, the actual food. Yeah.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
So we had some stuff come in. So I'll just get through to the chat and remind everybody, if you do have questions, you can enter them now and we will get to them. So first thing is a comment here. I find that when I get enough sun in the summer, I do not get achy fingers during the winter. I assume that this is from vitamin D getting stored in my body fat, but I can add vitamin D drops just in case. Or maybe it's can I add
vitamin D drops just in case? Yeah. Again, I mean, I don't know you. I don't know, your vitamin D status. You can get it tested. Unfortunately, it's a lot more expensive in BC than it is in Ontario. But if you ask your doctor and you're willing to pay out of pocket, I think it's about $80, $85. And that's the way to know for sure, right? So if you really just want to know, am I okay? Do I need to be supplementing with this? Is it one less pill that I can take? Or are my levels low? And is this really going to make a difference? Finding out your particular status first is the clear, surefire way to know if you need it and how aggressively you need to dose. But yeah, taking more in the winter and less in the summer is often how I'll dose it. I'll kind of pulse it throughout the seasons.
Thank you. Are there Other vitamins or nutrients that could also be stored in body fat or elsewhere?
Vitamin A and D are stored in the liver. Vitamin E is stored in fat, like in adipose tissue. The B vitamins and vitamin C are water soluble. So they are the ones that we need to be getting on a regular basis. Minerals most often are stored in the bone, so particularly calcium, magnesium, right? Phosphorus, boron, all those guys. Selenium, I don't know where we store it. Zinc, I don't know where or if we store it, but I'm not good at saying I don't know. So I'm going to write that down. Iodine we store in the thyroid. So the minerals, generally it's the bone, but I'm going to look up selenium and zinc because I'm curious about that. But most nutrients are water soluble. We want to be eating them. Good food all the time. But A and D you can store in your liver for a while.
Thank you. Next question. What time of day is best to take an iron supplement?
Iron is the absorption is improved by acids. So if you can take with orange juice, lemon juice, kombucha, anything that's going to be acidic, its absorption is impaired by tannins. So tannins are those compounds in tea and coffee. If you have a really strong, I let that steep a little bit too long. You put the tea in your mouth and your mouth kind of like puckers up and dries out. That is doing that along your digestive tract as well. And it makes it really hard for the iron to get through. So generally I dose it whenever you're not going to be having tea and coffee. So for people who don't drink tea and coffee, morning is good. If you do drink tea or coffee, maybe lunchtime. If you like having a nice oaky red wine at dinner would be a bad time to do it because that's also high in tannins. So with something acidic, away from something with tannins, but really, generally, I'll tell people take something imperfectly rather than not at all. So if, I forgot to do it at lunch and now it's bedtime, but I did have that glass of red wine or a cup of green tea or whatever it may be, you might impair the absorption somewhat, but at least you'll get some through. But yeah, so away, yeah.
Thank you. I like that. Next question. What potency do you recommend for vitamin D? Example, 1,000 IU.
1,000 IU is all we were allowed unless we had clear lab indications that the person needed more. Now Health Canada is raised at 2,500. I do like to test, right? I just, same with iron, with all these things. If there's a way that I can know someone's baseline and then track their progress, then I will. But otherwise, yeah, we'll just stick with what Health Canada says and go with 1,000, and now it can be 2,500 in winter.
Thank you. Next question. I am pretty much covered up in the winter, but I do go walking daily. Does the sunshine on the face get absorbed? And how much time in sunshine do we need for optimal vitamin D absorption?
That is going to depend on a number of factors. So I remember I was like 8 or 9 years old and learning that I was already interested in nutrition, learning that if we had just showered and then we go outside, we're not going to make as much vitamin D because we've just stripped away that top layer of cholesterol. But if you say shower at night and then you go out and get your sunshine the next day, then you have more cholesterol in your skin. You're going to be better able to convert that into vitamin D. So I thought that was kind of fun. When do you shower for optimum vitamin D absorption? There's also just pigments in our skin. So white European people like me absorb a lot of UVB lights. Therefore, body creates a tan to protect against that, which then blocks the UVB coming through. So it's a bit of this give and take through summer and winter. People with darker skin tones tend to have lower vitamin D levels because their ancestors spent a lot of time in the sun all day, every day. So part of it will depend on your ethnicity. Part of it will depend on when you shower, your needs, how much cholesterol you have circulating in your system. So yeah, there isn't a cut and dry answer to that. But yeah, as much as you can get your skin exposed, the better. And supplement is needed.
Thank you. Next question. Can people with food sensitivities consume MegaFood vitamins?
Depends on what the sensitivities are. I know a woman who is sensitive to all citrus fruits, candied oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits. So the vitamin C from MegaFood is not a good choice for her. The multi is not a good choice because it comes with vitamin C, or the vitamin C is delivered through oranges. If it's a gluten, dairy, or soy sensitivity, MegaFood is a total green light because they check for all of those. So it really depends. It depends on what your food sensitivity is and whether it's in that particular formula. So she could take the B complex, that was no problem, but she couldn't take the multi, she couldn't take the blood builder because it had oranges in it. So it really depends on your particular sensitivities.
Thank you. So it looks like that is it for questions.
All right.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank everybody for joining us tonight. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just a big thank you. I really appreciate people coming and spending their time with us this evening.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So just remember, everybody, you will be sent an email shortly, and that's just a quick survey for you to fill out. And we're going to ask you for your actual physical mailing address, so we can send you a nut box so you can spend your money maybe on some healthy greens, healthy food, or some MegaFood vitamins. So
some dark chocolate.
Right? Dark chocolate, definitely. And if you want to find out more about our nutrition services, you can reach out to your in-store nutritionist, and you can do that in store or through our website at choicesmarkets.com.